Can you please tell us about your journey and how you became involved in the arboriculture from the start?
When I was young, there were no arborists, no tree care people in the field, so I didn't know about it. But what was very important for me when I was young in the 1970s, there were two things. One is the book Die Grenzen des Wachstums, so that's the limits of growth of the Club of Rome. Mm-hmm. So that was a revolution at that time, that we have to protect our world. We have to protect the nature. So that was really important for me, and I said, okay, I want to work in that field. The second point was we had in 1973 the International Garden Exhibition in Hamburg. And I was there several times, and I saw how important it is to have green in a city, and that we have much more quality of the life in a city, and we have to promote this. We have to do that more than before. I was grown up right in the center of Hamburg, only buildings, only asphalt, only concrete, and with very little green. And so there are the roots for my work. And then I decided, well, what I want to do when I go to university. And at that time there were no chance to study environmental science or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I decided to study forestry and forestry products. After this, I moved more and more far away from the wood, more to the trees, to the living trees. And then I had the chance to work in the United States by El Chigo. Mm-hmm. And then that was the first contact for me with agriculture. And after that, I started with research on agriculture at the University of Hamburg.
What motivated you to establish your company, Institute of Arboriculture? What was your intention with it?
Yeah, so I worked as a researcher in that field at the University of Hamburg. And I had experience in that field for 6-7 years. But that was just a project at the university. There were nothing for arboriculture. That was just a little branch. And then I had to decide to go back somewhere in forest fields or to continue on agriculture. At that time, that was at the end of the 1980s, there were no education in that field. There were no research institution in that field. There were nothing. And then I thought there is a need to have an institution for agriculture. And therefore I founded the institution, and I call it Institute for Arboriculture, Institut für Baumpflege in German. And well, there are 3 goals or 3 working fields. One is education. So this is my thing, to explain things. How trees grow, how trees defend themselves, how to deal with trees, and I want to make it understandable. And to do that, there's a need for research. And so I continued on research. Now I do it since more than 40 years. Mm-hmm. And the third working field is to do consultants. This is the practical aspect of my work. People have problems with some trees, with diseases, with on construction site, whatever, and they want to have a good answer. So therefore, I also worked as a consultant. So 3 working fields: education, research, and consultancy.
Could you highlight some of the significant contributions you did for the study and practice of the tree care through your career?
First, I have to say something about the Hamburg tree pruning. So we made a research, and then we explained how to remove a branch when you have a branch color, or not a branch color when you have included bark, when you have codominant stems, if you have dead wood, and so on. And this is, I think the most important result. It is now translated into 10 different languages. It's also translated into Chinese, and now it will be translated into Hebrew. And so it's a great thing. The second thing is the results about wound reactions of trees, and to expand the coded model created by El Shaigo. And now we expand this now, and we talk about the coded principle. And this is also a tool to explain how trees grow, how they defend themselves, what is okay for the tree, disturbances, wounds, and so on, and what is not okay, what is too much. This is what we can learn from trees when we deal with trees in urban areas. The third thing is the tree assessment and further investigations, including tree diseases. And in that field, we started in the city of Hamburg with a system to make tree assessment for safety reasons. And I wrote with my colleagues several books about that to help people to make a very good tree assessment and not to be only afraid and to cut down the trees. So I want to keep the trees, the old trees, as much as possible.
As an author and editor of numerous specialized books, could you share some key topics that you covered in them, your opinion, how they influence the arboriculture?
Well, there's a couple of books about tree biology, about wound reactions, about tree care, especially pruning, and also the protection of young stems with the white color. And a new field is the tree protection during construction. And yeah, so it's a wide range from beginning with the tree as an organism, living organism, and ends up with technical stuff, how to deal with the tree when you prune the tree or when the tree is somewhere in a construction area.
You don't work just for your company, the Institute für Baumpflege. You also work as a professor on the university, and you also manage one very, very important and nice conference for many years. Could you give us some more information on your activities in these fields?
Well, at the university in Göttingen, where I am a honorary professor, so there I'm teaching. This is what I do at the institute. This is doing what I'm doing in Göttingen. And in the past, I also did that on several other places. For example, at the Boku University in Vienna or at the Swedish University. And the Deutsche Baumpflegetage, the German Tree Care Conference, is also education, to bring information to the people who is doing the work. It is, I think, always the same intention to bring scientific knowledge to the practitioner, to transfer this. I have quite often the feeling we have a lot of knowledge in the books, and when you look into practice, you see, well, do they know something about it? And quite often, maybe no. And so the intention I have to make clear what is good for the tree, what is bad for the tree, and to have a good interpretation. So this is the whole thing. This is the same when I talk at the university or for practitioners, or when I write a book or an article. So that's what I want to do.
Could you tell us or discuss some of the current challenges and trends that you see in the arboriculture at this moment that are particularly noteworthy or that are the scope of your interest?
We have a lot of challenges. I will talk about three things. One is the climate change. Everybody knows it will be warmer and we will have less water on most places in the world. So we have drought stress. So we have to deal with that. We have to deal with that with the old trees, and we have to deal with that with the younger trees, and we have to look what tree species are able to survive in that condition. The second field is the field of diseases. We have more and more diseases. 20, 30 years ago, nobody talked about Massaria disease on plane trees or Pseudomonas disease on horse chestnuts, and we will have more diseases in future. That's for sure. And a lot of diseases are imported from somewhere. And I think this is really a challenge. And in the past, we had a lot of good trees in urban areas, like plane trees, horse chestnut, and others. And we will have more and more problems in the future, though this is really a challenge. The next point is, and the last point of the three, when you look into the statistics of the United Nations, you can see that we have everywhere in the world more and more people in urban areas. And so the urban areas, the cities are growing and growing and growing, and we have less green. And we know now how important green is. And what we see everywhere in the world, more or less everywhere the same, that we have less spaces for green, less spaces for trees. So I think the challenge, what we have, that's more than tree care, we have to protect the sites for trees. And I think this is the job what we have to do in the future.
What advice would you give to individuals who are aspiring to enter our beautiful field of arboriculture, or they are in early years of their careers?
Well, I think to work in that field somewhere with practitioners, I think this is the key thing. Not to be there a guy with a lot of theories in the head. I think we have a lot of people only with theories in their mind. And Al Shigo said, touch trees. So I say it with different words, to be in connection with trees, with green. I don't mean hug trees, that's not my field, but just to learn from nature. And when you learned a lot, you will do the right things. And this is what I did my whole life. I had the chance to test trees, to dissect trees, to learn how they react over the time. And sometimes I was surprised that was okay for the tree, or that the tree had a problem afterwards, whatever we did. The same with trees on construction sites. Sometimes I thought, oh, it's severe damage, and the tree will survive. And in other cases, the tree are damaged not so severe, but then 1, 2, 3 years later, you see in the ground, okay, this tree will die. And therefore we have to learn. And a lot of stuff are not in the books and are not taught at the universities or in the schools. So I think there is a need to be in contact in some way with the nature. I think my recommendation is to go into different working fields and say, yes, that's mine.
Yeah. Looking ahead, what do you feel? Where should we focus more our attention in the branch of arboriculture, or even research in the coming years? What is your feeling? Where the trees need us?
Well, in the research, we need more knowledge about the differences between the tree species under changing conditions. We need more research about diseases and how to protect the trees. And as I said before, with the growing cities, we need not only research, we need an interdisciplinary work with architects and ecologists and so on, that we all work together to have healthy, nice green areas in the city. So I think some people should more specialized in something, but we also need the connection to other working fields and the discussion, and it's really important that everybody understand each other. So especially on construction sites, so we say please protect the tree, and then the guys just think about the stem and the crown, but they don't think about the roots and the soil. So to make understandable that the soil and the roots are really important, and we have to protect them more and more. And I think this is a theme what we will have more in the future.
In your career, you had quite an influence on the standardization of the procedures, what we do with the trees, how we do it. And now you're also not just involved in Germany, but you're also involved in the European scope of the standards. What's your opinion on this?
We need all these standards. This year, 2023, it's just 50 years ago that we had the first standard about trees in Germany. Okay. It was the DIN norm 18920 about tree protection during construction, and all the other one came later. It is important to harmonize the different methods. It's important to use the same terms. Otherwise, someone says, please do this and that with the tree, and the result will be different. This is within Germany true. It's also within Europe true. And in our Erasmus Plus project of Arboristiku Academy, where I work now since 4 years, where we work on European standards, we have different words, different methods to deal with trees and to assess trees and to prune trees and so on. And it's really important to be in contact, to have an exchange. And a standard first is something where everybody or most of the people in the working field agree on. So then you can say this is best practice and this is somewhere outside best practice. And the standards are also something what will influence the education. And especially our European standards, what we are working on now at the moment, they will influence all the European educations, like European tree worker and European tree technician. And they have then afterwards a good base for education and for the certification.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for the end, can you maybe give us some teaser of some of your new ideas or some of your new research, or if there is something to share with us? That is not top secret.
Yeah. At the moment, we work on one question: how we can protect, how we can keep the horse chestnut trees. They are dying more and more because of the Pseudomonas bacteria. And we are running a project, the Institute, together with the University of Hamburg, how to protect the trees. And I hope that we will have a method in maybe 3 years that we can do something for the horse chestnut, that we don't lose so many trees. The second point is we have a lot of standards, papers, books about tree care and about tree assessment, but we have very little about the tree protection during construction. And this is something for the future. I think there's a wide range what we have to do, and this is really important. This shall one of the topics at the German Tree Care Conference in Augsburg in 2024. So I'm active in that field in different ways. And I think this is more and more important, because everywhere people are talking about climate trees or climate or trees, they protect the climate or whatever. In my opinion, these are the wrong words. The climate trees, or the trees, they protect our microclimate. These are all these big trees we have here. And the young tree from the nursery doesn't do nearly nothing at the moment. They will do it in the future. And some guys just think, okay, let's cut down the trees and we plant some climate trees. This is the wrong thinking. And also these maybe new trees we have, we don't know how they will react in the future when they are 40 or 80 years old. And we have to keep the old trees we have. And therefore the tree protection is really, really important for us. And this is, I think, for the next years, the key thing what we have to do, or what I want to do.
Thank you very much for your interview and for your time.
Thank you, Goran.